Israel is a state that implements its right to defend itself and its citizens.
Hamas is a terror organization committed to our destruction. They fire thousands of rockets at our cities.
Israel has a right to defend itself against rocket and tunnel attacks from Hamas.
Israel is under siege by a terrorist organization.
We stand with the democratic state of Israel. We stand against terrorism.
This administration will always stand up for Israel's right to defend itself.
When a narrative is so dominant,
Thousands of rockets
without any visible dissent or complication, it's extremely difficult to make clear to people that it is basically a propaganda story.
A man's got to do what a man's got to do, and you'd say a country's got to do what a country's got to do. We have to defend ourselves.
We hear over and over again that the conflict comes down to Palestinian terrorism and Israeli security. And what gets pushed out of the frame entirely is Israel's ongoing occupation of the West Bank, its siege and blockade of Gaza, and its settlement project.
We're talking about massive denial of human rights for millions of people. The government that is ruling over these people is not a government in which the Palestinians have a voice. What we're talking about here is something that is completely indefensible. Israel knows this. Israel knows this very well, and for that reason wants to talk about anything and everything else.
This cycle of violence continues. When Hamas launches rockets from Gaza, Israel hits back.
It's never about land. That gets dropped out. It's always about they hate us because we're Jewish.
Rational, clear-minded people understand that Hamas is a terror group, and it is committed to killing Jews and wiping Israel off the face of the earth.
No sense of how this started, where the animus comes from. These people basically kill because they hate, and they hate because they're irrational Muslim fanatics or whatever.
You know that Hamas represents this kind of ideology of hatred that they want to spread in the region.
This is not an illusion. American public opinion is generally supportive of Israel because it's been led to believe that Israel is in the right and the Arabs are bad guys.
And I think Americans largely get it. They know who the good guys are and who the bad guys are.
The Israeli position is the first position. They are allowed to determine the narrative.
Israel says this is a response to the almost 800 rockets that had landed in Israel from Gaza this year alone.
Hamas once again firing several dozen rockets into Israel.
Rockets raining down on southern Israel.
Rockets raining down on Israel.
Well, Hamas rockets rain down on Israeli border towns.
It becomes a story of Israelis responding to Palestinian attacks.
What would you do in the United States?
What will you do?
What would you do?
What would you do? More than 3,000 rockets have been fired on your cities.
What would you do? 3,000 rockets.
Our media operations, national media, is a scandal when it comes to Israel.
Why is Hamas launching missiles into population centers of Israel?
I'm wondering, though, whether you're outraged by the conduct of Hamas, starting the conflict by firing rockets.
They're always preparing Americans for an attack against these people who are incorrigible terrorists, who are constantly shooting rockets and never, ever giving the other side of the story.